If you're starting out looking for your first investment property, or maybe your second or your third, you probably started off by talking to a bank. You probably asked them, how much money do you need to put down to buy an investment property? And they probably told you 20 to 25%. And although that's partially true, that is not the full truth. In fact, there are a lot of creative strategies that allow you to put nearly no money down on a brand new investment property. And that's what we're going to talk about today. My top 3 strategies for creative financing so that you can keep more money in your pocket for things like renovations or that emergency fund. All of that and more on your favorite channel, Investing in Bryan-College Station, where we cover everything about growing your wealth through real estate in my favorite towns of Bryan and College Station, Texas. Guys, stay tuned. This is going to be a good one. In this episode, we're going to teach you why you might want to use creative financing. We're going to discuss exactly why creative financing might be right for you. And then my 3 favorite creative financing strategies that include house hacking, partnering, and using seller financing. Without further ado, let's jump in and talk about why it might be a good option for you to use creative financing. Well, for one, if you happen to be self-employed, you're going to quickly learn that banks don't want to lend to you. Why is that? Well, banks don't like when your income is inconsistent. For example, I'm self-employed. I run my own business, and some months we do well and other months not as well. Well, the fact is banks want to see that you have consistent income every single month so that you can make your payments. They don't like 1099 employees. They love W-2 employees or salaried employees. The other reason that you might run into an issue with traditional bank financing is what's called debt to income ratio. What that simply means is that bank math, it's like girl math but for bankers, has determined that you have more debt than they're comfortable with. That could be a car payment, or it could be just that you have so many rental properties that the total monthly mortgage payment is over that 40% threshold that they call the comfortable debt to income ratio. And then lastly, you might just not be able to come up with 25% down to make the banks happy. So if that's your scenario, then creative financing might be right for you. We're going to start off with my favorite creative financing strategy. Let's save the best for first. My favorite creative strategy, and quite frankly, my favorite investment strategy of all time, is house hacking. You see, I've house hacked twice, and I help clients do it every single year. I've seen how a house hack can jumpstart your investment portfolio and how much it can grow your net worth. House hacking is powerful. So what is house hacking? Thanks for asking. House hacking is where you take your primary home and you turn it into an income-producing asset. Take a liability and you turn it into an asset. Now that income can come from many forms. Some of the common house hack strategies are to buy a duplex, live in one side and rent out the other. I personally bought a 4-plex and rented out the spare 3 units. You could also do like my clients who buy a single family house and do a rent by the room model where they're renting out the spare bedroom. You could also buy a house with an ADU, accessory dwelling unit, live in the house, rent out the ADU, or vice versa. I've also had clients who buy a house and rent it out for game day weekends. They simply move out during a home game, rent it out for the weekend, and make thousands of dollars each time they do it. Right now, I'm currently house hacking my primary residence where I have a room dedicated to Airbnb guests who stay for 30 days or more. It's a month-to-month rental, just the room, and I make hundreds of dollars off of that every single month. House hacking is a very powerful strategy, but how is house hacking a creative financing strategy? Well, that's another really good question. You see, the hack is that you aren't buying an investment property. See, when you go to a bank and you ask for a loan on an investment property, that's when the bank is going to tell you you need to put 20 to 25% down. Here in Bryan-College Station, you're talking about a $300,000 house. 20% is $60,000. But if you go to that same bank and you tell them you want to buy a primary residence, you're going to move into this house that you're about to purchase. Now you have access to low down payment options. Conventional loans let you go down to 5%, FHA loans 3.5%, or if you're one of my active duty or veteran viewers, you can get as little as 0% down with a VA loan. Yes, you can use a VA or FHA loan on a duplex. That is powerful. And that's the hack. You get to use a primary loan on an investment property, and guys, the kicker is you can do this more than once. In fact, you can do it every single year. I've seen it happen. I've helped my clients do it. House hacking is by far my favorite and probably the most powerful investment strategy known to man. Pro tip for my Aggie parents out there. If your son or daughter is attending A&M and they are going to occupy a home here in Bryan-College Station, you can also get access to low down payment mortgage options. If you want to know more about that, go ahead and contact me. All my information is in the description below. Our next creative strategy is OPM, or other people's money, also known as partnerships. Now, a quick word of caution on partnerships. When partners break up, much like a divorce, it can get real ugly. So pick your partners very carefully. But assuming that you found a great partner who is of high moral character, you really have two ways of structuring that deal so that you can get creative and put less money into the deal. The first one is through an equity partnership. This is where you and your partner have an equity stake, you have an ownership in the property. The way that I've structured this so that I don't put as much money into the deal is that I am the active partner in that deal. You see, I'm a full-time real estate investor, so I'm going to find the deal, I am going to negotiate the deal, close on the deal, rehab the deal, and then manage the deal. For all of my hard work, I don't have to put as much capital into that deal, therefore leveraging my time and other people's money so that I don't have to put 20 to 25% down on every single purchase. The other way that you can structure a partnership is through what's called a debt partner. Now, this is not much different than a bank. A bank doesn't have any ownership in the property. A bank doesn't enjoy the appreciation of the property. They simply enjoy checks every single month based on the terms of the loan, and your debt partner is no different. Now, you can borrow this money from your debt partner and use that money for things like down payments, rehabs, or I've even used a debt partner to fund the entire purchase of a property. For a debt partner, it is a low risk investing. Now, of course, they don't have quite the upside, and you as the investor can utilize that debt partner to prevent having to put all that money out of pocket to buy that deal, use some bank financing, use some debt partner financing, and ultimately put less of your own capital into the deal. Whether it's an equity partner or a debt partner, you're leveraging other people's money so that you can keep more in your pocket and either buy more deals or have more money available for that new roof or that AC when it's eventually needed. Our last creative strategy is seller financing, or is it owner financing? It's either owner financing or seller financing. And guys, quite frankly, I'm not sure which to call this. If you know which one we're supposed to use, go ahead and leave that in the comments below so that I know which of these terms I'm supposed to be using. In either case, you're gonna go find a motivated seller who owns a property outright. They are gonna act like the bank. You see, when you buy a house from someone who's gonna be doing owner or seller financing, you give them a down payment at closing and then they finance the rest. It's just a debt. You're just paying them like a loan the same way you would a bank. Now, the cool thing about seller financing, and the reason that it's a strategic way to creatively finance a property, threw a lot of words in there I didn't need. The reason that this is a creative financing strategy is because you get to negotiate all the terms of that debt with that seller. You're not going through a bank who's got very cookie cutter products they can provide. 20% down, 25% down, this much loan to value, blah, 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 blah. It's all negotiable. You're just coming up with a win-win between you and the seller. What I find is that most people doing seller financing have owned the house for a number of years, and they're either getting close to retirement or no longer want to deal with the hassle of that property as an investment. They might not need that money up front. They might not need the full amount of money, call it $300,000. They might be okay with a smaller down payment, maybe 5 or 10% down, and maybe they would enjoy the regular monthly payments that comes with being a lender. I did this one on one of my properties where I purchased the property from a widow. You see, this is a house that her and her husband had lived in years prior and had since turned into an investment property. Unfortunately, when her husband passed away, she no longer could take care of this property and the tenants that were living there. But she was accustomed to the regular monthly income that this property was providing, and I was able to provide the solution to her problem. I gave her a 10% down payment, we financed the rest, and now I mail her a check every single month. She doesn't have to worry about toilets or tenants or vacancies. She gets a check on the first of every month that supplements her retirement. She's loving life. She's getting a lot out of this deal, and of course, I got a house. I didn't have to go through a bank, and I only had to put 10% down. That's getting creative. So whether you want to live in a house and house hack it, find a great partner, or find a motivated seller with lots of equity in a house, you can buy real estate with less than the conventional 20 to 25% down. You don't need a bank to buy real estate. So if the bank told you no, Greg's telling you yes. If you want to learn more, guys, as always, my contact information is in the description below. I'm here to help you out. And of course, I'm gonna have a new video every single week. So stay tuned for next week when I'm gonna drop a great new episode on you guys. Until then, you take it easy.